I had a little cough the other day, but I'm doing better now.
You had a cough? I see. What'd you do for it?
Oh, I went to the doctor.
Okay. What'd the doctor do for you?
He gave me a laxative.
That doctor gave you a laxative for a cough. Well, did it help?
Oh my, yes. Now I'm afraid to cough. Doctor gave me a laxative and some Prozac.
A laxative and Prozac.
Yeah, so I've been going to the John a lot, but I'm feeling good about it. Yeah, has made me kind of irregular.
I'm so sorry.
What?
Well, it's just, it's kind of embarrassing when you talk about that sort of stuff, you know. It's a church and everything. It's just kind of embarrassing. It's too much information.
Well, I'm sorry. What else am I going to talk about?
Illustration. But there might be some here today that you'll find this to be especially meaningful. I hope that's the case. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take Tilly and I'm going to hold her up in a way that you typically wouldn't see a ventriloquist do. And if you don't remember anything else about my little show here today, I hope that what I'm about to share with you by way of an illustration is something that you won't forget. I'm going to hold her up just like this. Now I know it looks kind of sad, right, to see her hanging there like that. Just a minute ago she had life. Now she's just hanging there. Here's what I want you to think about. Aunt Tilly was actually created to be used for me. Now, unlike Mac, where I acquired him, I had Aunt Tilly specifically made for me. I had her commissioned. She was fashioned and designed with, of course, a specific purpose in mind to be used in my show, to entertain people. Now, she was made or created in the image of a human being, right? She's not a human being, but you might say that she was made in the image of a human being. Actually, she was made to favor my grandmother a little bit, which is why there is a family resemblance there. So she's not my grandmother, but you might say made in her image. But here's what I want us to think about. You and I were created as well, weren't we? And we were created with a specific purpose in mind. Now, you and I were created in the image of God. We're not God, but we are created in His image. Now, Aunt Tilly here has a little problem, right? She has no life, well, apart from me. And you and I have a similar problem, don't we? We have no spiritual life apart from a relationship with the one who created us. God has created us to have a relationship with Him. That's the way we're made. It's the way we're designed. It's the purpose for which we're created. But when we're not in the relationship with Him that we were created to be in, there's something that's missing in our lives. There's an emptiness that exists that nothing can fill. You know, we chase after things that we think are going to satisfy us, but it always seems to escape us. Of course, the Bible speaks of this condition, right? It says throughout the Bible, but probably most clearly in this one little verse that we often quote, Romans 3:23, all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. And Romans 6, of course, 6:23 goes on to say that the wages, or the penalty of sin, is death, spiritual separation from God, such that there is nothing that we can do to have the relationship with God that we were intended to have. Nothing. We can't be good enough people. We can't be moral enough people. We can't even be religious enough people because of this problem of sin that has separated us from Him and has left us hopeless. But fortunately, God does not leave us in this condition. He's given us the way to have a relationship with Him. And that He's done in the gift of His Son, Jesus. who has died on the cross, taking that death penalty for sin that you and I owe upon himself. But he's not only died on the cross, he's risen again from the dead, demonstrating to us that he's in fact who he claimed to be, that he's God in the flesh. And he invites us to place our faith and our trust in him, and when we do, he's promised that he would come into our lives, fill our lives, live in and through us, and that would restore to us the very purpose for which we were created, the relationship with God that we were intended to have in the first place. Jesus put it like this. He said, I'm the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me and I in him will bear fruit, have a fruitful life. But apart from me, you can do nothing. Apart from me, says Jesus, you can do nothing. But when we place our faith and our trust in him, he's promised that he would literally come to live in us and through us by the power of his Spirit. And that would restore to us the very purpose for which we were created, the relationship with God that we were intended to have in the first place. I'm going to have Aunt Tilly sing an old hymn right now. This is a hymn that I remember hearing my grandmother sing, actually, years ago as a soloist in church. It's become one of my favorite hymns. It's a hymn that I hardly ever hear sung anymore. Pastor this morning, Pastor Kip this morning was talking about the idea that when we know the Lord, we know where we will go when we pass away. That we will go home. And that's what this hymn is all about. It's a wonderful old hymn. I'm sure many of you will recognize it. And this is how I remember my grandmother singing this old hymn.